All right, so the big news of the offseason has hit. NiJaree Canady, reigning National Player of the Year, leaving Stanford. She's headed to Texas Tech on a reported deal by ESPN that is a seven-figure NIL deal, which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane that someone's going to pay a college softball player, reportedly, at least $1 million to come play softball. So just some quick thoughts on NiJaree Canady going to Tech, what it means for Oklahoma, what it doesn't mean for Oklahoma moving forward. And hey, if you're watching this video and you're saying, all right, well, she's going to Tech, I want to hear about our team. I want to hear about our squad. I got you covered. I just did a video earlier this week detailing one thing in particular that I like about all 5 transfer portal additions for Oklahoma. You can catch that link right there at the top of the page. But for those of you that are interested in hearing from NiJaree Canady or about NiJaree Canady, I'll just say this. I'm glad that this is over. I'm really glad that this is over. We can kind of all move on here. Not that NiJaree Canady or this decision really held OU hostage. I always think that they were in a very comfortable spot when it came to NiJaree Canady in the transfer portal. They always had the belief that, hey, if we get her, it improves our team even more. But if we don't get Canady, and we're not going to overpay to get Canady, if we don't get her, then we like our odds of having a really good team again next year that can win a national championship. But from the beginning, the thought was, all right, you got a bunch of SEC teams that are rumored to be the front runners for Canady, but don't count out a school. And whoever that might be, whoever wants to throw a ton of money her way, don't count out a school that sees an opportunity to really kind of rise to the top when it comes to college softball, really make a push for Oklahoma City. And a team that hasn't, necessarily historically been great, they offer a large sum of money to Canady and her family, and they get her on campus for the next 2 years. Well, that's exactly what Texas Tech did. And look, I think NiJaree Canady's great. I think she'll be one of the best pitchers in college softball next year. But if you're sitting here tonight saying, I cannot believe that she's going to make that much money, I'm right there with you. Like, I knew that this was going to be a large sum of money for NiJaree Canady. I didn't think it'd be the reported 7-figure NIL deal that she's getting. But at the same time, if Texas Tech wanted Canady on campus, they were always going to have to pay more than everyone else, and maybe more than everyone else by a pretty decent margin. I mean, this is a program that has some momentum right now with the new coaching staff and what they're doing via the transfer portal, sure, but a program that's never even made it to Oklahoma City, and a program that clearly wants to make it to OKC, so they're willing to spend an unprecedented amounts to get a player of her caliber. It is crazy, absolutely insane that we're talking about this number, and it is interesting that an NIL deal now exists like this in college softball. Will we ever see a number like this again in college softball for an NIL deal? I don't know. Obviously, time will tell on that. But Texas Tech, I think, always had to pay more, and seemingly they paid more to get Canady on campus. It's a large sum of money. It's the day and age of collegiate athletics now. I don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. But it is what it is, and you can offer a number like this if you have the means to do so, and we'll see what ultimately this means for the Texas Tech softball program. I think that this puts them in contention now, along with the other offseason moves to compete in the Big 12 and maybe really even push for a spot in Oklahoma City. In my mind, this does not mean that Texas Tech is the favorite or one of the favorites to win the national championship. I'm just not there with Texas Tech. They've got some other holes that I think that we're going to need to see throughout the year that, hey, the other positions outside pitcher, can they match up with Oklahoma? Can they match up with Texas? Can they match up with Florida? So no doubt this is a big deal for Texas Tech, but I don't think that this is crippling for Oklahoma. And I never thought it was going to be crippling if Oklahoma didn't get NiJaree Canady. Again, yes, she is a fantastic player, and Oklahoma would have loved to have her, but Oklahoma was never going to approach this situation where they were willing and ready to match any number that was on the table. I just don't think that that's reality, and that's not consistent with what I've heard throughout the entire process. What I heard throughout the entire process is, look, Oklahoma has a nice NIL offer on the table, but they're not going to budge too much really from the number that they're going to throw out because OU doesn't have to. Would OU be better next year with NiJaree Canady in the circle? Yeah, they would. But this doesn't change the fact. This doesn't change anything at all as to if OU is a legitimate SEC and national title contender next year. Like when I visualize an NIL pitch or a pitch to a transfer portal player, I'll say that. If Patty and the coaching staff is pitching to a transfer portal player, hey, we want you to come play at Oklahoma, I think NIL is absolutely a part of the equation. It just has to be these days. But I don't think Oklahoma's a program that's ever going to match someone's crazy offer or have the largest offer that's on the table, regardless of who the player is. Because I think Oklahoma's pitch is, hey, we'll give you NIL. We'll be competitive in that space. We're not going to overpay for anyone. But at the same time, our pitch to you is, you want to go win a conference championship? Do you want to go play with the best facilities in the country? Do you want to play in front of the best fans in the country? Do you want to play in the best conference in the country? Do you want to make it to Oklahoma City? Do you want to win a national championship? And when I think that you have all those pitches, and OU has all those pitches, more than anyone else can throw out right now, you don't necessarily have to throw out the largest NIL number. And, clearly NiJaree Canady wanted to go to a place where she gets that reported seven-figure NIL deal. All power to her, that's legal. But just because NiJaree Canady didn't pick Oklahoma in that pitch, does not mean that it is a bad pitch. In fact, it's a terrific pitch that here's a healthy offer, but if you really want to come win a national championship, then come to Oklahoma. So I think that that's what OU's portal pitch was the entire time. I think that that's what the portal pitch moving forward is going to continue to be. And now that this roster kind of feels set, maybe you add one more name, maybe. I don't think that that's a guarantee for Oklahoma right now. But now that this roster is set, I think a lot of people will say, well, this is a national championship contender, but not looked at as the favorite to win the national championship. And if you've seen past videos of mine, you know that I am all about that. Like, please have that take, say it loudly, say it as loud as you can, put those headlines in Norman, Oklahoma, that OU won't be the favorite next year to win the national championship, because I don't think that they will. Like, whatever poll that you look at or preseason publication, whatever, I don't think that Oklahoma will be the overwhelming favorite to win the national championship like they have previously. And in fact, I don't necessarily think OU will be the favorite to win the SEC next year. I think they'll be picked to finish third behind Texas and behind Florida. And we'll see if some other SEC teams out there like a Tennessee really push to be picked in front of Oklahoma as well. None of that matters. We all know that it's proven on the field at the end of the day. OU wasn't the number one overall seed last year, and they still won the national championship and swept Texas to win the championship series. So those things don't matter where you're picked, but I do love the motivation that it can give this team. That you're not going to be as good as last year's team with all those fourth and fifth year seniors. You're not looked at as the best team in the country. You're not even looked at as the best team in your own conference. If you've heard me say it before, you'll hear it again. I love Oklahoma having a little edge to it. I love Oklahoma with some real motivation going into the year that people think that they're not going to be as good or they can't win a championship or they can't win the SEC. I love that fuel. So my thoughts today, I'm glad that this is over. We can move on. There's a lot to like with this OU softball team. I'm glad it's over. Best of luck to NiJaree Canady. We'll see what she does at Texas Tech. Obviously, a lot of more eyes will be on that program this year. But I still really like what Oklahoma has and what I think that they're going to be this upcoming season. I love the chip on their shoulder that they're more than likely going to carry into the season. It's going to be a very, very fun year. And no, you won't see NiJaree Canady in SEC play. Maybe you see her in postseason play. But this isn't a decision that totally sinks Oklahoma for next year. They're just fine. They were always going to be fine. Remember, you don't win 4 national championships consecutively. You don't win 8 national championships since 2000. You don't rise as the best softball program in all of the country if it's only been about one player. That's never been the case with Oklahoma. That'll never be the case with Oklahoma. They're more than just fine moving forward. I am excited. And now we get to talk about a roster that's seemingly set and look ahead to 2025 and the special group that this Oklahoma team can be this upcoming season.